Well, you'll get to know us a little bit. We got a holiday this week and some extra days, so perhaps more of you will be out in the field this week, and you can take advantage of the times to be together. We'll be seeing you at the assembly real soon. And, of course, those of you that are going to Pioneer School, we'll see some of you then. But before the Pioneer School, you'll have another assembly. So we'll be seeing you then. The Society is making some changes in the assembly arrangement. I can't tell you all about it, but I can tell you this much. When you are notified in a few months, you will come to appreciate that you will be at an assembly every 3, no more than 4 months in the new arrangement, even though they cut out one, all right? So now you've got something to look forward to, right? So they're not taking away anything. You're going to be given more, but it's going to be of a different variety. You're going to like the new arrangements. It's well thought out, and it's something that will benefit each and every one of us. We talk a lot about the new system. If we ask for a show of hands, what do you know about the new system? What kind of comments would we get? Somebody under a vine and fig tree, somebody putting up a home, somebody doing this, somebody doing that. What does the new system mean to you? What do you know about the new system? Well, tonight, for a few moments, we're going to sort of step in, spend some time, and then come back, all right? To see if we're approaching the new system with a soundness of mind. And perhaps some of us are not, and perhaps there needs to be some adjustment made on our part. We learned about the new system there in, 2 Peter 3:13, new heavens and a new earth that you and I are awaiting according to his promise. Well, now, if we go to 2 Peter 3, as we look for the new system, there is something that we are asked to do instead of just looking for it. There's a question that's asked here. Look at 2 Peter 3:11. Since all these things are thus to be dissolved, now that's the old systems, the old heaven and the old earth is going to go away. Since you know that's going to happen, because you can't have an old and a new in the same place. If you have a new heavens, the old must go. If you have a new earth, the old must go. So since they're both going to go, the question is, what sort of persons ought you to be in holy acts of conduct and deeds of godly devotion? You'll notice that the action is put upon the persons you and I ought to be. We ought to have acts, holy acts of conduct and deeds, godly deeds of devotion. So we don't just sit around and wait for the new system. Obviously, some action is required on our part. Waiting for the new system will do nothing for us. Waiting and keeping close in mind the presence of the day of Jehovah. So if we appreciate that there is going to be a new heavens and a new earth, then we need to consider something. What sort of a person am I as to acts of conduct, holy acts, and deeds of godly devotion? While all of us want to be in the new system, are you sure that you're the kind of person that God wants in the new system? Let me rephrase it. Are you really ready for the new system? Now, we talk about it a lot, but some of our lives are so wrapped up in this system that we wonder if some are really ready for the new system more than just in thought or in speech. By what you are doing, your holy acts of conduct and deeds of godly devotion, are you preparing for the new system or just talking about it? That's what we want to talk about tonight. Well, some brothers will say, if I knew more about the new system, I could get ready. I mean, I would know, what does God want me to do? Well, he's told us everything we need to do. You would be surprised, some of the questions that come to the Society's attention about the new system. Let me read you a few, all right? Some say if we knew more about life in the new system, more details, perhaps we would do better. Like, for example, one person asked, in the new order, who will supply all the services the present worldly system has been providing? If all the present systems end in the coming great tribulation, how will the survivors communicate with one another around the world? Will we have mail, telephone, telegraph, radio? How could there be any unified direction of activities as by an earthly governing body? See what he's saying? How will the governing body get to us if they can't write us, if they can't call us, and if they don't have radios set up to get to us? How will we know what they want to do? That's another one. How will people know where to live? Will it be a case of everyone just picking out the area he likes and settling there, in effect staking out a claim as was done in the days of the frontier west? If not, how and by whom will the land be assigned? Now, that's his main concern. Another one. Will we have automobiles, airplanes, and other powered means of travel? Sisters write in and ask, will we have electric stoves, washing machines, dishwashers, microwave ovens, VCRs, etc., etc.? One sister said, when the clothing and the shoes that I am wearing at the time of the tribulation wear out, where will I buy new ones from? What is she really asking for? She's writing society to see if God has mentioned to them whether or not he's going to spare Penny, Sears, and Macy's, that they would go through intact so this sister can go shopping. It's amazing, isn't it? What is on the minds of some of the brothers? Well, a brother asked, if I wanted to build, where will I obtain such things as hammers, nails, swords, and other equipment now supplied by this present system of things? Now, the society answers most all letters, and they answered, imagine these. I'm going to give you the answer, right? Questions like these are many, but there is a simple and a brief answer to them all. Here it is. God's word, the Bible, does not say, and so, brothers, we do not know. You feel bad about that? Do you lose anything in that? Has the hope of living in the new system, has it faded at all because they didn't tell you whether or not you're going to have a washing machine, an airplane, or car? Now, what has that got to do with the new system? The answer, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because everything that is mentioned here has to do with something of a tangible, of a physical nature. And that is not what the new system is all about. Let me read you the quotation. Preparing for life in the approaching new order calls for our keeping a right focus as to the promised blessings and placing highest values always on spiritual things. We shouldn't even be concerned about the questions that were asked here. If we keep our values on spiritual things, it says, when the storm of Armageddon finally passes, the rumble of its thunder fades away and the earth stops shaking under the impact of divine fury expressed against the nation, we will come out from wherever Jehovah God has seen fit to preserve us, and we will rejoice in the morning of a new day, the dawn of his new order. When we gaze around, possibly all that will meet our eyes may be rubble and ruin, but if so, it should look beautiful to us. Why? Because we can then say from the depths of our heart, thank God. Finally, the old order, with all of its corruption, cruelty, and rebellion against God, is gone for all time. Now that's the way to approach the new system. You really don't know whether there'll be a building standing. But does it matter? Does it really matter? Do you ever go out in service with the friends of they work in a very nice section of town, and you hear them say, oh, Lord, I hope you don't take that one. Why? Because I'd like to have that, particular place in the new system. Or it'd be a shame for Jehovah to tear up that $55,000 car right there. I could use that in the new system. See, now that may seem harmless to you, but what is a person doing? It shows a lack of faith in God. Because you are taking the architecture of an imperfect person in a greed-ridden world and saying, in effect, that if that isn't allowed to go through, that God doesn't have the sense to give you something better than that. So you're asking him to go against his own purpose as respects the new system by sparing something that he has condemned, because he said this system will go down. So do not expect him to take anything from this system into that system. He doesn't need it. Now, if you think for a minute, look at what our organization is doing. Those of you that have been in the truth for 10, 20 years, remember how we used to build Kingdom Halls? It used to take months, sometimes years, build a Kingdom Hall. How long does it take now? How long? Build an assembly hall in 3 days, maybe 4. An entire assembly hall. Now we're still where? In an imperfect system, working under this system's imperfect laws. And we can put a Kingdom Hall up in its entirety in 1 or 2 days. How much time do you think it would take God to put a house up for you under perfect conditions without City Hall? About 45 minutes? Maybe an hour. Brothers can, without the red tape of this system, put up a home in 1 hour. Now, why do you want to take something from this system when you don't even know what a home, a real home, is going to look like? What do you want one of these 2, 3-story monstrosities that this system has put up, designed in a greedy way? And we help you to appreciate that to see that God, what he is doing for us on this side, as to prepare us for life on that side. So leave everything that's here. Just leave it, because you don't need it where you're going. And if you approach the new system with more of a soundness of mind, more in tune with spiritual things, you will not get involved in such mundane conversations. Now, what we do need to do is this. We speculate so much about the new system. Let's stop speculating. Let's talk about what we know. Let's go into the new system based on what we know has been provided in the Bible. First, let's go to the book of Revelation, the 20th chapter of Revelation, and we'll find out something we do know. All right, here we see the heavens and the earth in verse 11 pass away in a symbolic sense. They're gone. Verse 12, I saw the dead, the great and the small, standing before the throne, and scrolls were opened. But another scroll was opened. It is the scroll of life. And the dead were judged out of those things written in the scrolls according to their deeds. Now, what do you learn about the new system from this? The Bible indicates that all those who are going to be resurrected are back now. And they are here, alive on the earth. Childbearing has ceased. No more children. God evidently has said at this point that the earth is what? Filled. So the Armageddon survivors have had all the children that Jehovah feels is necessary, and the resurrected ones have come back. So now you'll notice that at one large assembly, although that is symbolic, the scrolls are now open because there are no children. Everyone can hear. Everyone has a new body. Everyone is in a state of readiness. You don't have to pass this on. Listen as the scrolls are open. Now, passing through the tribulation was fine. Now, this is what will get you through the next 1,000 years. And then the scrolls are read, and all the instructions for life in the new system are contained here. And that is why it says, and the dead were judged according to the things, the living and the dead. Every person standing at that time that Jehovah opens the scrolls will now be judged according to the things in the scrolls, and you and I will be told from now on, this is the way it is to be done. The princes take over, and life in the new system, for all intents and purposes, begins. Now, what has the society said about this? It says scrolls, as dealt with in Bible prophecy, almost invariably refer to some revelation of God's will, a revelation set out in written form. Thus it appears that during the millennial reign of Christ Jesus, there will be further revelations of God's will and purpose, and these will be in published form so that all may be informed. Then it will be up to each one to demonstrate his worthiness for life by harmonizing his deeds with those scrolls. With that piece of information, what did we just learn? This. Survival of the Great Tribulation, therefore, does not necessarily guarantee survival to life everlasting. You want me to read that again? Because that's the key to this. What is the society saying? Going through the tribulation is difficult. We don't want to ever minimize it, but is that all there is to it? No. In comparison, it's hardly anything. What is it that gets you the day after the tribulation into and beyond the 1,000 years by bringing your life in harmony with the things that are in the scroll. So the society is saying many who go through the tribulation are going to die on the other side. Why? Because every one of you that came here tonight, you brought the one thing with you that could kill you in the new system. You got it right there in the seat with you. It is the thing that can, and in some cases will, kill you in the new system after you survive the great tribulation. I'm going to prove this. Some say, well, with Satan and his demons out of the way, with all the bad people out of the way, with only those who love God living in a righteous new order, how could I go bad? Well, I'm going to answer that from the Bible, all right? Sin and ultimately death is of an internal nature, not an external nature. Whether a person lives or dies has nothing to do, for the most part, with what goes on around him. Did you know that? Now let's get back closer together and clarify it. At one time on the earth, there were two people, two perfect individuals. And then Jehovah God reached into his cadre of angels, and from the cherub class picked out one who would oversee these two people. All right, now you've got three perfect individuals, two humans, one spirit. The man had never seen anybody disobey. The woman had never seen anybody sin. The spirit creature had no knowledge of this either. Then how did all of this get started? If you and I assume that we do bad because we copy other people, which is a fallacy, it's wrong. We do bad because we want to. Prove it. James chapter 1 fully helps us to appreciate how this whole thing got started in the Garden of Eden. Did you know that? All right, now take a look at this Bible verse for us. We're going to look primarily at, let's say, 13. When under trial, let no one say, I am being tried by God, for with evil things God cannot be tried, nor does he himself try anyone. Then how did it get started? 14. Each one is tried by being drawn out and enticed by his own desire. One of those people there began to reason on something. Here were two human beings, not as high as angels, but not as low as animals. They had the ability to reproduce. And in time, there may be hundreds, maybe thousands of these things called humans, all being the same. They would need somebody to sort of oversee their life, someone to look up to. And so the spirit creature said, why not me? Why couldn't I be over them, like an invisible God, over all these so-called humans? I could do a fine job over them. First thing I'd have to do, though, is to get them to break their relationship with God and look to me, and then I could direct their lives in a much better way. Now, it says, each one is tried by being drawn out and enticed by his own desire. Then the desire, when it has become fertile, gives birth to sin. In turn, sin, when it has been accomplished, brings forth death. See, nobody came there and set a bad example for those three folks. No one. It came from within. So it doesn't matter whether or not Satan and the demons and all the no-goods will be gone. If you take what you brought with you tonight, through the tribulation and on into the new system, you have the makings for death on the other side. You're carrying it around with you, the very thing that indeed would kill you. Well, some try to minimize it. Yes, I know. I think I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the thing that's beating in the middle of my chest. You're talking about my heart. Absolutely. Because God's going to give each and every one of the tribulation survivors a new body, but he will not give you a new heart. You know, if he gave you a new heart, you'd be a what? You'd be a new creation, not a new person. You would be a new creation. You're not going to be a new creation. You're just going to be a new person. So the heart you have stays with you on through the tribulation and on into the millennial reign of Jesus Christ. Now, how could it kill you? Let's look at that. Some might say, well, I've got a few bad habits. I've got some things I need to be straightened out. But you know something? I am relying on Jehovah God to finish my training. They're misapplying the scriptures. So he's going to straighten me out. to the point where when I get into the new system, it'll just be almost a natural thing to do what's right. Some feel that if I get to go through the tribulation, can you imagine what the tribulation is going to be like? If I survive that, there is no way I would turn my back on Jehovah again. Now let's take you through another tribulation with some more people and see how the tribulation affected them, okay? You remember when the Jews were captives in Egypt and Jehovah God brought them out of the Egyptian bondage. He put in front of them Moses and he led them to the Red Sea. Now, the first crisis came up for them because to them, the Red Sea was their tribulation. They had to go through this in order to really be free. Now, you got to picture what those Jews found. They found a sea, an entire sea at flood stage. And they found it, some commentators indicate 60 to 80 feet high at flood stage. And you ever hear a sea, an ocean, moving? The sound you hear is energy. In its normal flow, there is a rhythm to the sea, that the energy moves back and forth. But when energy is stopped for some unnatural reason, the energy has a tendency to back up, and so the noise can be deafening. Now imagine, if you will, Jehovah God stopping the normal flow, the ebb and tide of a sea, and opening it up and stacking it up 80 feet high, and then telling them, step into the riverbed and cross. You see, you and I have been influenced by a movie that went around here about some fellow who opened the Red Sea about the size of this Kingdom Hall, and everybody ran in and ran across. If you have a chance, check your aid book, page 546 as a reference. Listen, since Israel crossed the sea in one night, it could hardly be assumed that the waters parted in a narrow channel. Rather, it must have been a mile or some miles wide. Though in fairly close marching formation, such a group, along with what wagons they had, their baggage, their cattle, even when rather closely ranked together, would occupy an area of perhaps 3 square miles. It would take such a column several hours to get into the seabed and travel across it. So you're talking about 2 million people. Children, carts, animals, everything. And you're talking about opening up a seabed. If you start on that wall and you go 1.5 miles straight out that way, and then stack it up 80 feet high and hold it there, and then tell 2 million people to go on across. You imagine what that was like? The awe-inspiring figure. You would never in your life go through such a tribulation that they went through. And then, of course, there was the fear of what? The Egyptians. They're on horseback. These people are on foot. What's keeping them? Why is it that the cloud behind them will not lift? Why is that thing hanging there? Why is it they can hear these people riding out there, but no one's passed through the cloud? And then they get the answer. When they finally get on the other side, the cloud lifts, and there's the whole army. And then the next question is, why doesn't Jehovah drop the water now? Because these people will use the same passage. They don't understand God's will. Few people do. It isn't until they see the entire army of Pharaoh get about halfway across that it dawns on them why God has left the door open. And when the 80 feet of water falls on them and literally crushes them out of existence, then they understand why he left it open. Then they sing and they pray. It was the most holy night, having gone through the tribulation. But the Bible says in Exodus 15 and Exodus 16 that within a month they forgot all about this and commenced to curse God directly to his face. How long did the tribulation last? About a month. That's all. So, listen, whether a mighty act of God has only a momentary effect or actually changes you depends on whether your heart is affected or not. See the point? Now, the tribulation that we're going to go through may affect some people for a long, long time. But for the most part, it will have a momentary effect on most, because tribulations do not of themselves affect a person's heart. You have to come to the tribulation ready for the tribulation. See, it's like saying God will scare you into serving him. Can't. He won't. Doesn't wish to. Well, now here's another thing to deal with. Well, that's all right. But I tell you what, I don't have any arms. I don't have any legs. I am deaf or blind or both. Or a person who makes it through the tribulation with cancer, and he had about another day left, and he makes it. And his body is totally eaten up on the inside or possibly the outside. And since he is one that needs the body immediately, the society has indicated through the scriptures, helped us to appreciate that those who need the bodies the most will get them first and then down into their, in line with their needs. So this man, or these individuals, will get the new body immediately on entering the new system. This man says, if God gives me a new body, don't you know I would serve him forever? There's no way I would do anything wrong. Well, we can only learn from life's examples, can't we? What happened in Luke 17, from about the 10th or 11th verse to the 19th verse? It told the story of 10 lepers whose bodies were decaying in front of them. And because they were in such a sad state, no one in the Jewish nation could go through them. They always had to go into shadows, because if you touched one of them, you were ceremoniously unclean. They happened to see Jesus coming, and they said, what? Jesus, instructor, have mercy on us. And he did. In effect, he gave them what? 10 new bodies. Now, how many turned around and said, thank you? We don't know what they did later. How many turned around and said, thank you? Sis, how about it? That's it. So, what did you learn from that? Will a new body make a new person? No. That's the same person with whatever heart you have in your chest, with just a brand new body. So do not count on the great tribulation changing you. Don't count on a new body from God changing you. Don't count on God changing you. Jesus said that even a resurrection from the dead is not going to change a lot of people. Remember when he was talking to the Jews that lived near him? It says, he said here, this is Matthew 11, 20 to 24. It will be more endurable for Tyre and Sidon and the land of Sodom on Judgment Day than for you. Why? Because society says these people in ancient Tyre and Sidon and Sodom had not had the benefit of the preaching, teaching, and the performing of powerful works that the folks in Capernaum, Chorazin, and Bethsaida had. So the society says what Jesus is saying, that these people in Capernaum, Chorazin, Bethsaida, would return during the 1,000-year reign with the same proud, stubborn personalities. And yet, though clearly unrighteous, the people of Tyre, Sidon, and Sodom had not manifested such traits, and so would be in a better position as to accepting the truth and instruction in God's righteous principles. Matthew 21, 31, and 32. See, so coming back from the dead, going through the tribulation, getting a new body, these things will not happen to work some magical transformation in us that will assure our success in God's new order. We will realize this. In the final analysis, whether we gain everlasting life is not going to depend on merely associating with a certain group of people or a certain organization. In the final analysis, it's going to depend on what we are as persons, what our personal qualities are. You see, the organization is going through the tribulation. That doesn't mean that everybody who belongs to it is. There are a lot of friends here who are good people. They are going through the tribulation. You're not going to go through simply because you know them. There are parents here who may go through the tribulation and their children are not, because the parents have done what God has required of them. It's the children who are playing the games, and they think that because they're not baptized or because they're not so old, that the scripture in 1 Corinthians would apply to them, and they're somehow going to hold on to this holy woman or the holy man, and God is going to, he won't see them hiding. You see what I mean? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine some child fooling God? You can't imagine that, can you? And they shouldn't either. So, being in an organization, knowing people, being in a certain family does not, will not, cannot assure you're going through the tribulation. We'll talk more about that this week. It says, so in all seriousness and in full possession of our senses, we must be honest in our appraisal of ourselves. Stop minimizing or glossing over your wrong habits or bad attitudes as they betray a serious spiritual weakness. Don't keep saying, I'm going to get it together. Get it together. Now, here's the reason. A man, for example, might have what some call roving eyes. He is not a fornicator or an adulterer in the literal sense, but his interest in the opposite sex is excessive. His eyes rove from this one to that one. If such a man does indeed have the awesome experience of surviving the Great Tribulation, his eyes may look straight ahead for a while. But if he has not really set his heart against lustful inclinations, his eyes may soon begin roving again, yes, even though he is in the new order. And what's the problem? When he starts roving in the new order, he dies that day. What a pity. He took that with him. He took the roving eyes with him, see? Brand new body, imperfect, bad heart, and a set of roving eyes, and killed him on the other side. All this work on this side, all the things he gave up, going through the tribulation, and then to die on the other side. Why? Because he wouldn't get it together on this side. Like many of us, he kept putting it off. The personality change of Romans 12. I'm going to change, but it'll have to be at my own pace. No one rushes me. Fine. Talk about another one. The same would be true of the person who lets himself be overly dependent on alcohol. Though not a drunk, if his interest in it is immoderate, and if he fails to correct the matter, you know what I mean? These are brothers and sisters now that have certain jobs or certain ways about them that they have to have a drink sometime during the day. Maybe one, maybe two. You never see them drunk. Never. They never stagger, they never move any different than anybody else. But they're alcoholic. They're functional alcoholics. We have them. We have them in our organization. They come to the meetings, they work, they lead what seems to be quote-unquote normal lives, except for those who live with them. They know they're living with a functioning alcoholic. And the alcoholic will say to the lady or the man, I can stop any time I want to. No, you can't. If you could, you would. But you can't, because you are dependent on alcohol. And you will not let Jehovah change you. So you're going to do it your way. So the society says, as long as you're not a drunk, and it's not immoderate, you're going to go through the tribulation. Though not a drunk, if his interest in it is immoderate and he fails to correct the matter, it may cause him problems later as a possible survivor in a new order. See, what the drunk, the alcoholic is saying is this: Jehovah God is going to destroy every liquor store in the new system. So I don't have to change. God's going to take care of my problem, right? If he flattens out every liquor store, I have no problem, right? What's wrong with that? Did Noah go to the liquor store? Huh? You see the point? You take the problem with you, and you find out that things grow pretty good, and you grow something, and you know that anything possibly that grows on a tree, you can make wood out of it, right? You got that much sense. And if the climate's a little better than it is now, and you put things in the ground, they come up, and you squeeze them and grow them, and this, in a few days, you'll have what? All you want. And that's what society says. The absence of an alcoholic beverage industry would not prevent this any more than it prevented Noah's indulgence on one occasion after the global flood. So you see, some people never learn. We continually ask the brothers to change, to try to conform more to God's righteous standards, and they keep talking about they're going to get it together. Well, this talk is designed to help you to appreciate something, not scare you, just to help you to think about something. Jehovah is going to let you go through unless you commit some great moral badness. The personality traits, they're yours. You take them with you. See, he never said only perfect people go through the tribulation. It's only perfect people who survive the 1,000-year reign. You take it with you, you get a new body, you got the same old rotten heart beating inside the new body, that's your problem. Because he will not allow a prolonged a period of time for people to change in the new system. You step out of line, when the scrolls are read, that's the last day you live. Now you can do it two ways. You can bank on the fact that God is not as wise as he says he is, and that you're going to slip through. Or you can be a wise person and says he always keeps his word,
So you know something? Starting now, starting today, starting this minute, I am going to change. I've got some problems. I've got some ways about me that need to change. Here are some of them. So too with other dangerous habits or personality traits. If you have a tendency to be selfish, to be ambitious, boastful, envious, a gossiper, a lazy person, you hate headship. There are numerous things that could create problems for us if we do not learn how to get them under control, for it will hinder or block our making progress to perfection during the 1,000-year reign. Final comment. If any of us should fail to qualify for life by failing to live in harmony with the contents of God's scroll, then we will have no one to blame. Not the present wicked system, not the devil and his demons, but only yourself. So really, as you approach the new system, dear brother, please do it with a sound mind. Please keep in mind that God is opening the way to everlasting life for all who wish to have it. And he's going to allow many to enter into the new system who are not quite perfect. But we want you to know that what you bring with you could kill you on the other side. Why not then make the changes necessary now so that obeying God's righteous commands and orders in the new system will not be so difficult? See, if you have a hard time listening now, what do you learn from that? It'll be just as hard when they open up the scrolls. You don't know what's in the scrolls. But if you won't listen to what the society says now, what makes you think you'll listen then? See the point? Now let me go one step further. We always come up with excuses as to why we can't do more for Jehovah. I've got to provide. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. Well, that's true to an extent, but some of us don't have to do it with such grand style. See, we can live and we can live. Some of you have a style of life that is the envy of all the people that know you. And some of us just live. We just go from day to day. See, those who have the style of living, you got the problem. Because with that style, it takes time to remain in that style. Time that you are taking from Jehovah God. Sure, you have to provide. But do you have to provide like you are providing? Do you have to live like you are living? Do you really think you can have it both ways? The best of this system and the best of the new system, brother? Something's got to go. You got to let something go. Why don't you let the best of this system go and just survive? Spend the time serving Jehovah God and begin listening, and then on that system, he will give you all you need. But see, we've been influenced by a style of living, and we feel that that goes along with being a witness. I can be a better witness. No, you can't. The best witnesses are those who serve God with a complete heart. Suppose I told you this. Suppose I told you that the society called me today and they said, this is Tuesday night, Thursday, Friday. Tell the brothers, Friday at noon, the system is going to end. How many of you would go to work tomorrow? Suppose tomorrow was payday. How many would you go in and get the last check? How many of you would go to the bank tomorrow to empty out your accounts? How many of you would pay off your houses tomorrow? Why is it all of a sudden everything you own as of 1 minute ago became what? Nothing. Now, you really don't know whether I'm kidding or not, do you? Some of you are sitting there. Suppose he's right. Well, one of these Fridays, it's going to happen. It's going to fall on you like you know what. But the point is that by giving you that information, suddenly the things that's keeping you from serving God, suddenly, in that moment of time, they went out of existence, didn't they? All those new cars out there in the parking lot aren't worth the powder to blow them all up, are they? If Friday is the last day, you could care less about it. The house that you're killing yourselves over, the job that's killing you, you wouldn't even go back. This would have been the last day of your employment, right? But you see, that's good in one sense. But if it is Friday at 12 o'clock, how many of you are ready for Friday at 12 o'clock? Some of you are saying, oh God, let him be playing. to get it together. But that's the way it's going to come. Suddenly. Just like that. Now, we don't mean to be facetious, but if Jehovah said Friday at 12 o'clock, hey, that's good a time as any. Let it be. That's a good a time as any. Why? Because we've been trying to do it the best we could all along. We weren't waiting for the big push. Approaching the new system with a soundness of mind, we've always understood that whatever God asked us to do, let's just do it, all right? So whenever he says that's enough, fine, that's enough. I don't need no more time. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, 10:30 tonight, it's all right. Let it, bring it down. You feel like that? Or are you so wrapped up that you're saying, I think I do need a bit more time to get some loose ends tied up. Tie them up, brothers. Because when it comes, it's coming like a thief in the night. And it's going to fall like dominoes all around us. Why not start today, tonight? You and yours, get together. See where you can make some room in your life to include Jehovah God. Stop living like this. Some of you are waiting for the amen. Sing the song and pray, and let me go home so I can get some sleep to do what? Do it all over again tomorrow. And that's your life. You heard about Jehovah God from 7 to 9 today. And when I came up, 3 of you were asleep. You woke now. I think I got your attention. Yeah, but it's a shame you got to come here in that shape, isn't it? When the system turns you loose and lets you come down here for 2 hours and you nod for one of those, because that's all God gets out of you today. The system gets the rest. And then tomorrow, maybe Thursday, they'll give you a little time off. I don't know. But is that a life, really? Is that what you call serving God? I mean, in its fullest extent? Think about it. Think about where you can get some time. So if you spend more time serving God and less time in the system, number one, may I suggest you cut that style out? Come on down here to earth with the rest of us, witnesses of Jehovah God. Try to live a simple, uncluttered life so that you don't have a whole lot to let go of when it wraps up. To the point of dedication to take them with me in the new system. I'll get my style. Oh, you want to see somebody live? You watch me. When we get together over there, I'm going to show you style.